Jim.
Robert.
James Cogan. How are you?
I'm good.
It's good to see you. I'm so thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
Um,
Pleasure to be here.
Jim and I are part of the same writing group,
Oh.
and he wrote a really great book called The Death of the American Gent.
Rampant douchebaggery.
Oh, rampant yes.
Rampant
It's
douchebaggery.
triggering for me.
The
and that's why we're gonna
subtitle
talk about
is
it.
The Death of the American Gent.
And so I wanted to have you on the show because obviously we talk about men's and men's issues. Your book is all about it. You're a brilliant writer in such a way that for me is sometimes a little triggering.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfectly fine. I think we all need to be pushed and buttons stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I saw some of the questions that someone wrote, and about being provocative, like I'm an agent provocateur. I just don't know how I would write this book and have it not trigger anyone or not be provocative. That is part of my MO. I mean,
really?
Believe it or not, no such thing as bad publicity. So give me all the hate mail, bring it in. No, but but I will say moving forward, I own every word in this book. I've lived it.
Yeah.
It's 160 pages, and I started the book a few years ago. I was telling Isaac that I, just trying to add a couple chapters, but the book kind of took on a life of its own as I was writing it. And so now it's completely free and clear, and I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud of it, and I'm happy to be here.
No, it's a really you're a really brilliant writer, which is good. So what I like to do is kind of talk about the arc of the story, right? Where'd you start? How'd you end up here in this position with this book, and your view on kind of what's going on with men in today's society?
Love it. All right, so I'll try to give you the shorter story. I was living in Chicago. I was in a couple of relationships, long term. One marriage, another was a near marriage. I had a great career. I was full-time faculty at Columbia College. I was a recording engineer, and life was good except my relationships. Like it just wasn't working out. And we all have our own processes and the stories we tell ourselves. And the story I told myself was I had two great parents who really raised me well. They loved me. My parents are my heroes.
Yeah.
I don't need therapy, and no, I'm okay. It's and then after a couple of these relationships that were serious, big time relationships. One, as I say, marriage. One, very near marriage. I met this guy very serendipitously. I met this gentleman at the beach one day. I was learning how to sail. This is Montrose Beach in Chicago. And this big, tall Australian guy is waiting for my boat to he could go out. So we started talking, and I said, so, what is it that you do? And he said, I'm a therapist. And I was in a relationship that was really troubled at the time with a woman. And I said, do you mind if I maybe, call you up? Like after you're out of the boat, when you return the boat? He said, sure. So 3 weeks later, I called him. I said, do you remember me? He said, yeah, I do. What do we do? He said, come in and see how it feels. So that begat 2 years of therapy. And I ended up doing 2 really transformative practices back to back. One was therapy for 2 years, every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. And it was hard. Like my first couple months, I was fighting it. I was really fighting. I don't know what I was fighting.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. No, a lot of times for men, you have your vision of, well, I'm a man, I shouldn't be doing this. And some people fight against that process. But was there something going on in your brain? If not, it's okay.
No, that's a great question. And the answer is, I think, can I say bad words here?
Yeah, we'll just bleep them if we need to.
I think a crap ton of stuff that was part of the problem. I had so many things going on in my head. I mean, and obviously a lot of the biggest things is ego. You got to deconstruct the ego. So does this mean I'm broken? Does this mean, I'm not as cool as I thought I was? So you got to kind of get over all that nonsense. And then it really helps. There comes a point, hopefully, if the therapy is good, where you really trust the person. He or she is not an adversary; they're an ally. And okay, fine. So that went through, and about 18 months into that, I said to him, I said, I think, because Christmas was coming up in a few months, I said,
Yes.
I think, end of the year, I said, I think this will be 2 years. He goes, I'm real clear that this really works. This really worked well. And I said, it did work well because I challenged him a lot. And it was just, I think we both kind of grew a lot. Obviously, I did more than he did. But, there were some painful episodes, which is part of the deal too. That's part of what you sign up for. And the thing is, that therapy it was a catalyst for all sorts of change, which of course it can be. A divorce can be a catalyst. I mean, a death can be a catalyst,
Absolutely.
right? A new job, a lot of things there. But therapy can usually be a huge catalyst in someone's life, and it wasn't mine. So I decided to leave Columbia College, great gig, great school, leave the recording industry, and this was like the end of a 20-year chapter. And I find in my life, chapters go like about 20 years.
Okay.
They kind of do. So I left all that. I sold my house in Chicago. I left Columbia, moved up to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, because I had a friend up there, and I kind of had a comfort level up there. I told myself, which is true, I wanted to see clouds of stars at night. I didn't want to see just a couple stars. I want to see like a whole crap ton of stars. Yeah. And so I moved up there. I love to renovate houses, so I renovated my house. I bought a used sailboat. I got into gardening, which I still love. And then because I had back issues, I started taking yoga at the YMCA in Lake Geneva. Long story short, I started getting certification and I started teaching yoga. And then again, after that, I moved back to Chicago, where I was kind of like going back and forth, and I opened up a yoga studio.
Of course,
which
that's a natural progression.
Of course,
Yeah.
I'd never been a brick and mortar. I was only a recording engineer and faculty, academia. So I opened up a yoga studio, and that was interesting. And then what I learned there, which is part of my book, I had been out of the scene of dating for a while, pretty much. But I'm going to get to something that is really important to what you're asking me. But I hired like 17 teachers, mostly women, 25 to 55. And I found a new breed of woman, which I'm talking about in this book, and I just call it the badass woman. It's a lot of women who are really highly functioning people. They're not narcissists, because women can be narcissists too, not just men. But they just take care of business, and without fuss or brag, they pay it forward. They're helping the later generations. So that was like really eye-opening. Like there's all these really cool women who threaten a lot of men, as we know. But what started this book, the genesis of this book, was being in Lake Geneva by myself. I was a whole new life, terra incognita, brand new life. I loved it. And I started going on dating sites. And at that time, we're talking early 2000s.
I was going to ask.
It was stigmatized. It was stigmatized. It was not mainstream. It wasn't mainstream until about 2010. So I'm on there, and I'm talking to women on the phone. And I was telling Isaac this. It was always the same.
By the way, Isaac is our engineer.
Isaac is our videographer engineer, and he's doing a great job.
So when he mentions Isaac, it means that's the person behind the camera.
Yeah.
So
okay, anyway,
go on.
So I would be talking, and no exaggeration, within 5-10 minutes, I'd be going, wait, what? He did what? Your ex-husband did what? Your last date did what? No. Because I was raised to be a gentleman.
Yeah.
My dad was super old school, gentleman writ large. My brothers are, my friends are, my nephews are. And I just thought, well, everyone's kind of a gentleman, and so I found out, and the thing is, I started this book, I don't know if I should say this, but I started this book a while ago, like 2016.
Yeah.
And the issue of men behaving badly hasn't decreased, sadly, in over the years. It kind of just keeps on morphing into something more visible and more nasty, and now it's affected our politics a lot. So I started writing. And I believe the first chapter I wrote, well, first of all, I did a version of this book that no one liked. And it was a couple of chapters. And it was bad. I didn't like men. I didn't like my own gender. I didn't have any love for them or compassion for them, which was huge. So they said, you know what? My mentor said, this quote I still remember. She said, even the most man-hating woman won't read this because it's just too mean. Okay, so woodshed in music, you go back to the woodshed, right? You go to woodshed. And I needed to do that. I needed to find compassion for my fellow man. And I'm serious as a heart attack. I needed to find compassion for guys. So I started writing this book. Rampant Douchebaggery was my first chapter. And it just went on from there. And so I do make up words in the book.
No, it's great.
So there are words like stealthing and quicksanding and just words that I've made up, but not too much of that. But the book kind of took on a life of its own. And then I would it's like this whole phenomenon. You're in the market for a car. All of a sudden on the highway, you start seeing that car everywhere.
Always.
So I'm writing this book, so I'm
just seeing
more and more Wall Street, Gamergate, Silicon Valley, the military, what's going on, And I was like, there's just more fodder here. So the other thing I will say is this. The other thing I wanted to do in the book, I purposely put in my backstory. Like I confess part 1, I confess part 2. I'm Catholic, so the confession part. And I wanted to do my memoir, like what was my journey from, as I say in the back cover, from flawed dude to flawed gent.
Yeah, no, I'm going, are you kidding me? I mean, that's for some of this stuff, it's like you can't make some of this stuff up.
Well,
you just can't.
And I say, one of my favorite lines of the book is, I have made every single misstep listed in this book, along with a few that are not quite legal in some of our northern plain states. I like that. But I have. Have I been too drunk on a date? I have. Am I proud of it? No. But the other thing is, am I proud of it? No. But do I forgive myself? So self-forgiveness is kind of step 1. When I moved up to Lake Geneva so long ago, this is going to sound weird, but I kind of really forgave myself when I was doing some journaling then.
So talk about self-forgiveness. What are you forgiving yourself for?
That's a great
question. I thought
question.
You were perfect.
That's right.
At Columbia College and everything.
Right. Well, I mean, we're all our own worst enemies. We should be our own best friends, but we typically were our own worst enemies. So I think I was going through this thing where I just wanted to be kinder to myself and just practice self-love. And self-love, self-forgiveness, I mean, they're two sides of the same coin. If you love yourself, you should forgive yourself. So that was kind of huge. And then therapy, I was still in the throes of therapy. So a lot of that was still percolating and ruminating in my head.
Sure.
And then I started doing yoga, and I started realizing, which I think all men should do. I started doing yoga, and it's like, you've got to be kidding me. So yoga is a big part of it. Yoga is a big part of me because I am like 0.0005 of American heterosexual men of a certain age who practice yoga. Why? So a chapter in my book is doing yoga won't necessarily make you gay. So, not that there's anything wrong with that.
So I go to yoga every Monday night.
I didn't know you dance and you do yoga. You do all these things.
I'm the modern man, aren't
you
I?
Are. You're Renaissance man.
So I look forward to going. I hate doing it, but I like the result at the end with the stretches and everything else. That's my whole thing about yoga, and I've done other things.
So why don't men do yoga? Let me just say one thing real quick.
Yeah.
If you watch a rom-com, you're on Netflix, you're going to watch a rom-com. Yep. It's going to be, they're in the Caribbean at a resort, right? You know what you're going to see. You're going to see a yoga class there.
Yeah.
How is yoga going to be portrayed? Oh, put your left chakra into your right earlobe. I mean, it's going to be like, that's not what yoga is at all.
Not at all. No.
So why don't men do yoga? Because, and this is a big part of my book, I think men are really fearful creatures.
Talk about that.
I think men are afraid of women. Men are certainly afraid of women who make more money than them. Certainly afraid of women who have a passport if they don't. Who have stamps in their passport they don't have. Who have degrees that they don't have.
So is this more of a status thing, or what is it one up, one downmanship? When guys were raised, it's always hierarchical, one up, one down. So do you think it's part of maybe how they were raised, where if they have the woman has a passport and they don't? It's like one up, one down, or is it something else
I
going
don't know
on?
about that. I think it's guys, a lot of guys, at least raised in the 60s, 70s, whatever.
Yeah.
I think I want to be the guy, not only the breadwinner, but I want to be looked up to as the guy. I will make basically the ultimate decisions as opposed to an equal partner.
Okay.
And I just think, and I don't think it's just American men. I mean, look around the world. Men repress women in burqas and this and this and this. You can't, you can't speak. You're going to get stoned if you look at somebody, literally. So I just think there is a fear of women in men, and I think it goes really deep. I don't think it's just the 90s or the 2000s or just America. I think there's something about women that terrifies me. And I don't know what it is. Because most of my friends are women. My longest term friends are men, but I have a lot of women friends. They're just as afraid and as confused as we are. There's nothing to fear about anybody.
Well, it's
Anybody.
I find what's most interesting to me is, like when I had kids and stuff, you feel like you're on your own. Like there's no user manual. I mean, there are books out there, but honestly, you feel like you're just making this crap up as you go. And sometimes I feel it's the same way with if you're dating or have a relationship with a woman, there is no real guidebook. And so I don't know. It's just interesting.
Can I tell you something? Here's what's interesting. Okay, that's fine. Next topic. So here's what's interesting. So of all the men that are out there, I'm talking to you right now.
Yes.
And in the little I know you, the chats that we've had, I think that some of these things resonate with you, and you say some of it triggers you a little bit.
Yes.
But also, you are atypical. You're not really, you are the person I'm writing for and about. But in some ways, you're not, because you are really proactive and you are really trying to get out of the past, get out of your head.
Yep.
And you're doing, let's say, the swing dancing. You're doing yoga. You're doing all these things. And I think a lot of guys, like in my book, I say, blow up your man caves. I mean, man caves have become like a fun thing, a meme,
Yeah.
I got it, but men don't need more isolation.
I can see that.
Men don't need more isolation.
So what do they need?
They need a soulmate. They need to rescue dogs.
Okay.
They need to get a library card. They need to get off Reddit subthreads. I mean, if we're really going there, this is my book. Being in your man cave and being isolated and being at the bar with angry people and being on Reddit subthreads, which is all just misogyny and racism and all sorts of stuff. If you are really alone, your life is 10 years shorter or so. I'm not a stat guy, but it's a good decade shorter than if you are happily married with someone that worries about you, someone that you're worried about. You take care of each other. You're still traveling. And here's the thing in my book. Here's the thing I say. Men don't realize it's like this circular thing. But if you really support your woman and you adore her and you make her feel like a rock star, she'll beg, borrow, and she'll steal for you. She'll rob a bank for you if you make a woman really feel cherished and respected and supported. And guys don't get that. Women want to take care of someone. I don't care what era it is. Part of our atavistic nature. But if you're lucky enough, and I say more than anything else in this book, more than going to a tailor, more than getting dance lessons or bodybuilding type stuff, personal trainer, which is all good, find someone that you can cherish. And if it's an animal, that's a good step. That's a good step. Because love is love. Love is love. But someone who can actually take care of you and talk with you and help you, and
one
you're gonna live longer.
Quote I like is, witness to each other's life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where you're together and you get to share your life together. And it's kind of like witnessing each other. And I thought that's a really eloquent way of saying participating in a person's life. So
Stephen Sondheim has a song, the great songwriter, playwright Stephen Sondheim, Being Alive. And it's someone to grab you.
Yes.
And we could say hold a mirror up to you. we need that. We all need it. We all need it.
Okay. So men are stuck in their man caves, right? There's a mental health epidemic, right? A majority of the suicides are men, seems.
Sure are.
Right?
101 each day, American men.
Not that you're a statistician.
Not that much. That's like one of the only stats in the entire book. Yeah, I'm not a stat guy.
Yeah. So, so talk about, and you talked about a little bit of how to get out of that, right?
Well,
go on.
If you are alone,
Yes.
you're divorced, you're maybe have a relationship with your kids, maybe you don't see them anymore, maybe you don't have any kids, you weren't blessed with them, whatever. But you're drinking, you're going to the bar, you're watching news feeds and on news feeds that reinforce a worldview that tells you it's not you, it's everyone else.
Yeah.
It ain't you.
Okay.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine by yourself in your man cave. So my thing is, just have the courage. Have the courage to do yoga. Have the courage. Get a passport. Don't go to Vegas anymore. Don't go to Cancun. Go to Morocco. Meet someone. Break out of some things. One thing I'm really proud of this book, I actually offer remedies.
Yes.
And one is is doing yoga. One is getting a passport, is using the passport. But it's so many things like, do you have any passions? If you have a passion, maybe get a degree in that passion. Open up your own. Yeah. You want to be a cook or a chef or whatever it might be, then do that. But doing the same thing with the same people who are telling you stuff that maybe, self-reinforcing or whatever.
It reinforces what your current worldview, which is not necessarily the worldview that you want or is that healthy. What you're saying is get out of your existing group and get up, look around at the world, and maybe get other people who resonate with the new worldview of where you want to head, or at least experience the world. Travel is a great way of understanding different cultures and different people and getting a different perspective.
But the other thing is women aren't the enemy. Women aren't the enemy. They should and could be allies. So maybe it might make sense for some people to have a female therapist or a female personal trainer. Pick their brain. Pick their brain. Don't hit on them. Pick their brain. But try and get more exposure to things that you're not exposed to, whether that is travel or it is yoga or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Get a library card. Turn off the internet. I'm serious. Internet is not doing single men any favors.
All it does
by
is,
and large.
if you look at the algorithm, right? If you're looking at negative stuff, it's going to feed you more negative stuff.
That's
and
what I'm saying.
Go down the rabbit
Self-reinforcing
hole.
stuff that you already, it's confirmation bias. Yes. Women suck. Okay, here's our guy. Of course they suck.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. So it's my main message is, men, be not afraid. Be not afraid. Take a couple of modest risks. They're not big risks. They're modest risks.
So how do so there are a lot of men who don't want to go to therapy or think I'm fine. So what would you say to those people to kind of help them to start breaking through? I mean, we have some middle actions we talked about. Anything like from a mindset point of view that maybe it would click with them and go, oh, I need to do that.
I would say, it's like bungee jumping off a bridge. It's like maybe getting a parachute. It's scary as shit. It's really scary. Of course it is. Yeah. But are you happy right now? No, because you wouldn't be in the situation. You're not really happy. Can you visualize a life where you have a partner, you have a couple dogs, you are traveling, and it's not even about money. Money isn't even the thing, It's visualize a life where you're not alone, where you have a partner who worries about you, you worry about her or him, and you are taking off the blinders. You're taking off the blinders. Be not afraid. Nothing to be afraid of. So the other thing I'll say in this book, there's I Confess Part 1. Here's what I'll say about this book, Rampant Douchebaggery. That's what we did.
It's on Amazon, by the way.
It's on Amazon.
And in the show notes, we'll have links to everything, so you can look.
Here's why why I think this book is unique and why I'm mostly proud of it. I wrote it from my heart. I wrote it with a lot of research, but it's a really atypical book of essays in that there is kind of a twist ending a little bit. There's kind of a twist ending. So that's all I'll say about that. But there's a really long chapter. There's I Confess Part 1, Part 2. So Part 3, which is the penultimate chapter, and I just like saying the word penultimate.
I love penultimate.
Right? Don't you like a good penultimate?
I do.
So that chapter is like a page turner, and it seems like I'm making the story up. I'm not making the story up. It sprang from online dating. You read it.
Yep.
And it's some people think that could be like a Netflix doc, and it's some people have mentioned like the Baby Reindeer. There's a show called Baby Reindeer, which has kind of got a lot of play. Okay. But it's not just a book of essays about toxic masculinity. There's some of that in there, but a third of the book or so is kind of my journey, and you know, who am I to be saying all these things? Well, I'm saying it from a place of I've been there.
Yeah.
I made all these errors, and I'm still making them, and I'm laughing at it, forgiving myself, and trying to move on and up.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Well, that's why I have you here, right?
Yeah.
Is because out of everybody I've interviewed so far, you have a very different perspective, and I think it's important to get multiple perspectives on everything. And so it's fascinating to hear, and I'd love to have viewers' comments about what your thoughts are on this. Because
I wish we could phone in. Why don't you have somebody phone in right now? Hey, can we?
No. Eventually, what I'll do is I'll have a membership group, right?
Yeah.
Where we'll have a bunch of people together, and eventually I'll invite you to have a Q&A of that group, if you're willing.
Now, your group this is not a pyramid scheme, is it? I'm kidding. I'm trying to be
everything a pyramid. No. Well, it's more of a community.
I love
it. For people to support one another.
Yeah. You're doing good things, Robert.
And when that community gets formed, because it's not formed yet.
Yeah.
Once it gets formed and we have enough people, I'll have you back.
Yeah.
Because everybody who listens to a podcast, at least this is what I want is. Yeah. Every time I listen to a podcast, I might have some questions. Wouldn't it be cool if I could ask like the podcast guest those questions? Yeah. That's what I'll do. I'll bring you back into the community so they can ask the questions. You can answer them however you feel fit. And so that's it's a lot of fun because I want interaction. I want people to really dig deep. Yeah. And so that's the fun part. So what's next for Jim?
So what's next for me? Promote this book. I potentially my first book, which is a book called Temples of Sound, about the 20 or the 15 great recording studios. I'm working on potentially a documentary on Netflix for that. So my fingers are crossed because that would be amazing. It happens great. But beyond that, what I'm really excited about is a book. And again, so part of my little brand thing is I have a provocative title and then a substantive subtitle. So I have a book that I'm scheduled to do next. It's going to take a couple years, but it's more of a curated book. And curated is a very trendy word, but more of a curated book. I can do a whole spiel on trendy phrases or whatever because I've practiced it. But you got to pivot because you don't have the receipts. But then you're at that inflection point. Anyway, you kind of get where I'm going.
No, I do.
You kind of get where I'm going. I can do it for 10 minutes.
The problem I have is every time somebody says the word pivot, I think of Friends, right? The episode where they're moving the couch up. Pivot!
Okay. That's funny.
Sorry.
Where were we? So
next for you. So you have a book that's 2 years.
So the book is called Wellness Schmellness because the term wellness doesn't mean anything. Really, it's just lost its meaning. Wellness is lux. Wellness right now in America, and I'm determined to change this. People are 50. Wellness in America right now mostly means lux. It means you go to Sedona or you go to Scottsdale. You're going to have the cucumber water. Maybe you do a silent retreat somewhere. Fine. Then you come back and you're back in your life again.
Yep.
So nothing changed. So wellness schmellness, the joy. The art of joyful longevity. Now, joyful longevity is a concept that I'm really down with. That to me is what it's about. I just love the phrase joyful. I didn't make it up. I wish I did because I'd be really wealthy. But joyful longevity So a part of what I'm trying to do is start a brand, and I'm super excited about this. Start a brand of wellness for people post 50.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is requires radical self-honesty. How much are you drinking? Are you lonely? Saying I'm lonely or admitting you're lonely is the hardest thing in the world to do.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
It is.
So are you lonely? Are you drinking too much?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, are you expanding your things? Are you getting off the couch? Are you exercising? So my idea of real joyful longevity, and a little bit of it is in this book. It's get out and help. Volunteer.
Absolutely.
It's like I
It's
say
a
in the
big
book.
thing.
Why, when we say the word volunteer,
Mm-hmm.
do we think of women? Do we think of men? Conversely, I say when we think of a hate group,
Mm-hmm.
do we think of anything but men? No, it's men.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently, someone out in, I don't know if it was Zion or Lake Mead,
Yeah.
destroyed this beautiful archaeological doorway, like a structure that's been there for thousands and thousands and millions of years. Destroyed it, vandalized. I was thinking, let's see who's going to find out in the story who actually did it. Was it a couple women who did it?
No, never is.
So it's slow down, unplug, turn off the internet, rescue a dog or two, walk in nature with them, volunteer, help out, find a volunteer thing. Some people do it, obviously, who are vets. And that's very fulfilling. But when someone is grieving, when someone really goes through grief, the thing a grief counselor will tell you, the best way you can handle and manage this grief is to help other people.
Yes.
Right?
I can see that. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a big part of what I do. Get out of your damn cave.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of your cave. Do you have any women friends? How many guys out there? How many of you have really cool, kick-ass women friends that you just really respect and adore? Mm-hmm. Or is it just all guys who are telling you, "Oh, women suck. They take all your money." Mm-hmm. Men's rights activists. That's in my book. Mm-hmm. We talk about incels in the book. Chads and betas and.
Yep.
So it's very fertile ground, and I just I think all the Jordan Petersons in the world, the Joe Rogans of the world, it's great to make your bed every day, make sure your bed is made. I support that, but I think that's just a very, very first step. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being on this and
Did
inciting
I talk too much?
confidence.
Was I hogging the
You're supposed to.
okay.
I'm like the Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson's talent was not saying anything and
That's
allowing
exactly right.
his person to really make the jokes and do things like that. So I try to say as little as possible. So.
Well, listen, I want to say to your viewers out there that I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the journey that you're taking.
Thank you. Yeah.
Because again, it's humbling. It's humbling because another thing is we kind of define ourselves by our 401ks, our status.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if we lose that, because identity is a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
If you lose an identity, and men tend to crumble a lot of times when they happen. So I support you because you are battling and you're
I'm working on it.
You're working, man, and you're trying, and it's a process.
All good. Well, thank you so much for being on it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Take care, everybody.